Drifter melee weapons are far more reserved versions of warframe melee weapons, but balance is completely different for duviri. They use mere part of stances we know and mostly love. In this video I want to showcase all of them, give some thoughts on how I feel about them and where they fit. It's not cut and dry to say one is the best, because they have unique abilities and different levels of power on the melee part and the ability part, so some may fit better with more brawly melee focused players and others may aid those players who use their amps more, or even use a more reserved approach to melee. Because of random nature of the duviri, I decided on a couple of rules for recording this. 1. I will not use any decrees to add randomness. So these are barebone weapons, or at least as barebone as it gets because I maxed out my combat intrinsics, so it is slightly better, probably like having one good decree. 2. I'll roleplay as a honey badger with a complete disregard for my life. Point is to showcase a melee weapon and not to walk around for 2 minutes to get an opening for a single swing, so you will see me do stupid things and just overly commit. Endurance intrinsic tree is maxed out, so we are pretty close to being indestructible. Not completely though. And last one, I'm playing regular duviri. No steel pad. I feel like without decrees, the steel pad would make it hard to gouge those differences. So without further ado, let's get into weapons. Sun and Moon is a default weapon. Techn's dual Nikana that got introduced with duviri. As such, it's probably not the best weapon, but it has a bit of everything going on. Have good movement, decent damage, and a very good ability. As all duviri melee weapons, when you execute a heavy attack while blocking, you trigger its unique ability. Sun and Moon launches a projectile that does good damage and an electric status. More different status effects is pretty good in duviri because there are multiple decrees that benefit from status in one way or another. Range of this projectile also lets you keep the safe distance, which is pretty good. There are weapons that hit harder with melee, but for its unique ability I say this is worth using. Cyng is a Nikana, and Nikanas are among the most popular weapons in the game. And I assume that trend will go on for drifter melee weapons because this is an amazing melee weapon for combat. It's quick and swings are wide and useful for hitting multiple targets, but its unique ability is of a much shorter range than most. And it's less effective one since it only lifts enemies. Still a status, but some projectiles are way better. But as a melee weapon, this is my go-to, and it's because of its pace. When you get close to an opponent and swing it, you're always going to hit them first, which is always a huge advantage. Works really good with YOLO plays, being always first to hit lets you avoid being stunned. Azoth is a two-handed Nikana and, well, you know where this is going. Weapon looks good and it hits hard, but its stance is among the worst stances in the game. Each swing starts with a slow backswing, so you leave an opening for an enemy to hit you. But even when you finally swing to attack, most of those are kinda vertical, so your ability to hit multiple targets is rather low. It's even easy to miss a swing with this weapon. I swear to God, sometimes this feels like it has half of its range. Still, heavy attack is a straight out meme bonk, so for the memes, why not? Its ability is pretty good. Doing cold status might help some players who prefer using their amps to fight in duviri. Certainly in steel pad duviri, cold status is of huge help. So there is a value, just not if you want to swing it much. Edun is a polearm, and a very dang good one. Multi-hits help with building status and criticals as you unlock decrees that benefit from it. It's a great all-round melee. You have range, wide swings, and it's definitely my second favorite for going in and swinging. And not because I think it's weaker than Cyng, it's just personal preference for Nikana stance. Its ability forces a knockdown, so definitely a trade-off for a great melee performance that we got out of it. It can help you in a pinch, but also it feels like it's super easy to miss with it, so I barely use it. Still, amazing melee weapon. Sampotes is a hammer, and a very heavy one. It's the slowest melee you can get for your drifter, but as it goes, it hits very hard. So for players who like to measure twice and hit once, this is likely their jam. You sacrifice speed completely, but you get very heavy hits and a very good unique ability that does heat. Heat procs are very powerful in duviri because there's no armor, so this can easily one-shot an entire group if you nail them with that powerful slam. Even without any decrease, a nuke. Speed is the only disadvantage of this weapon, everything else is pretty great. And that's kinda a trend for most of these weapons. Some traits are better and some are worse, and it's down to user to pick their poison. I think every one of them has a solid argument to use it. I'd put Cyng and Edun as more versatile ones because of those good stances. Really good for brawly melee fights. Sampotes also has a very good movement, but its speed makes it appeal to different kind of players who like slow and heavy hits. Still, with Decrease you can counter that and make it pretty versatile. Sun and Moon as a default one is really good, if you use its ability often. But as a raw melee, it falls short to Cyng and Edun. But those two have worse abilities than Sun and Moon, so it's a game of rock, paper, scissors. Azoth is probably a good weapon too, just two-handed Nikana stance is not playable. If you like it for some reason, then more power to you, but my recommendation is not to use it except to create cool procs with its ability to slow enemies down, for easy headshots with your amp. Because every other weapon is way better than this, and there are way more effective abilities. It just needs a better stance, that's it. I hope this video helps you make more informed opinion on where to start first when buying next melee weapon for your drifter. Eventually you'll get them all, but making the right choice early on can make that grind much easier. But that's it for this one, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.